Welcome to the Scaling Up H2O Podcast. My name is Trace Blackmore, the host of the Scaling Up H2O Podcast. And not just Trace Blackmore CWT, that's Certified Water Technologist. And Nation, I hold several designations, but I can't say that I am more proud than anyone than the Certified Water Technologist designation. The CWT means that I have so many years in the industry that I decided that I was going to sign a code of ethics on how I would conduct myself as an industrial water treater, that I would submit my application for peer review, and that I passed an examination proving base knowledge was within my ability about industrial water treatment. Of course, each and every 5 years, I'm responsible for so many continuing education units, letting my customers know that I am staying up to date with what is relevant in the water treatment community. Nation, that's what those three letters actually stand for. And I will tell you, when I meet other CWTs, you can immediately know that those individuals are not just part of the industrial water treatment industry. They have decided to be on the top echelon of the water treatment industry. They submitted to things they didn't have to do because they cared about this industry, they cared about their reputation, and they wanted to make this industry better than when they found it. That's what I say the Certified Water Technologist designation stands for. And it's my hope that if you have not achieved that prestigious designation, that is on your list for this year. That is a very lofty goal. They do not just give those things away. And I know sometimes it's hard to figure out where to start. So the team here at Scaling Up H2O is here to help, and we have a free course for you that takes you all the way through the CWT handbook so you know what you're getting into. You know what you have to do. You know what sections you have to study for. And that is our way to try to promote more people getting those wonderful three initials behind their name. And to get that free course, you can go to scalinguph2o.com/CWT prep. Once again, that's scalinguph2o.com/CWT prep. Now, if you do sign up to take the Certified Water Technologist designation, we have a course to help you even further with that, where I work 100 exam-like questions for you to kind of get a baseline of where you are, and I give you resources of where to go to bolster any information you need to study. So many people are giving us great feedback about that, but what it's doing, it's giving you confidence so not only you can sign up for that exam, you feel comfortable telling people that you did so. Nation, it's my goal to get as many people certified within this industry as possible, and those are just some of the tools that we're using to help with that mission. If you know somebody who should be a CWT, I hope you mentor them. I hope you encourage them so they feel confident to sign up and take that Certified Water Technologist examination. Nation, I get a lot of feedback when we get together each and every quarter on the hang about people that recently passed their CWT examination. So maybe that's you. Maybe you're a new CWT. I would love to celebrate that with you on the hang. And of course, the hang's going to be April 11th at 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. Eastern Time. We start on time, we end on time, and we have a lot of fun in between. To sign up for the hang, you can go to scalinguph2o.com/hang, and I hope to see you there. Scaling Up Nation, it's hard to believe there's only 6 months until the water treater's favorite holiday, Industrial Water Week. Industrial Water Week 2024 is taking place in the first full week of October, as it does each and every year. And as you know, this is your place to celebrate each and every day of Industrial Water Week. We're going to be talking about pre-treatment on Monday, boilers on Tuesdays, cooling on Wednesdays, wastewater on Thursdays, and of course, everybody's favorite and best career in the world, industrial water careers on a Friday. Nation, something we are trying to do this year is bring you into the podcast for Industrial Water Week. So if you would like to participate, you can go to scalinguph2o.com/Industrial Water Week, all squeezed together, one word, and we'll have instructions for you there and some different things that you can consider. We would love to bring you into the podcast this year. Once again, that's scalinguph2o.com/Industrial Water Week. Scaling Up Nation, there's no doubt there is a conference out there that is going to help you with information you need. It's going to introduce you to people that you need to know, but you need to be there and you need to participate in order for those things to happen. The team here at Scaling Up H2O has made that very easy. Go to scalinguph2o.com, go over to our events page, and you will see everything water treatment related as far as conferences go, just by simply going to scalinguph2o.com and going over to our events page. Now, if you see something or, in fact, don't see something that should be on there, drop us a line. Let us know about that. We will get that on there. But I encourage you to always plan out where you are going. If you're not keeping up with that, there may be something in your backyard and you might miss it. I have met so many wonderful people at conferences. I've had a lot of great opportunities at conferences, but none of those things happen if you're not there. So be sure to plan your calendar in advance, and our team is here to help you when you do that. Nation, a few years ago, I was in a car accident and I couldn't work. It was so painful. I had to go through some procedures. It was not my fault. Somebody rear-ended me. To make matters even worse, it was a brand new car that I had for a week. It's funny how that happens. It was actually my lower back that got injured. Now, I'm very fortunate. I do have some pain every now and then. I live with it every day, but it is manageable. It was not manageable when it happened, and nothing else mattered. I was in pain. That was the only thing that I could deal with. I spent about 2 weeks at home. I could not work. I had to go to all these doctor's appointments. So just imagine how different it would have been if I did not get hurt. Now, of course, I don't think there was anything I could have done differently. It was not my fault. But there's so many things that we can do differently that can potentially hurt us. And if you're hurt, if you're not working, if you're not able to spend time with your family, really nothing else matters. So that's the focus of today's episode, and that's what we're going to be interviewing our guests on. Scale It Up Nation, I have two lab partners with me today, two for the price of one. Please welcome Mike Highum of McGowan Insurance and Reid Hutchison of HOH. Welcome, guys.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, good to be with you.
And of course, this is not the first time either of you have been on the Scaling Up H2O podcast. So I should have said returning lab partners.
Well, we're glad to be back. It's a fun opportunity, and we appreciate you having us.
Well, I want to make sure the Scaling Up Nation knows who we're speaking with. So, Mike, we'll start with you. Do you mind introducing yourself to the Scaling Up Nation?
Yeah, happy to. I'm a partner with McGowan Insurance Group based out of Indianapolis, Indiana. We serve a wide range of clients in the benefits and commercial and personal insurance areas and risk management products across the country. We are about 140 people strong, and my personal responsibilities would be related to our image and brand and our go-to-market strategy. We've been involved with the water treatment sector and AWT specifically for 20 plus years, serving really all verticals within the industry, and really proud of our relationships and associations that we have.
And Mike, I want to add that you are my insurance professional. We just had a claim on a building. We had a lightning strike, and you took care of everything for us. So I thank you for all the work you help us with.
Well, we appreciate that recognition and appreciate being able to work with you, Trace, and your good company. And we enjoy a long history together.
Reid, tell us a bit about yourself, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I'm a third generation owner-operator of a water treatment company based out of Palatine, Illinois, and we help facilities manage their water, providing chemicals, equipment, and most importantly, technical field services with our water treatment staff. And we operate mostly across the Midwest. And our passion in this business is investing, rewarding, giving for lasting impact. Really privileged to get to be part of a legacy that goes back to my grandfather back in 1968 and my dad after that. And I love getting to do what I do here at HOH, water technology, with my brother-in-law, Andy, who serves as the CEO, and I serve as the COO.
Third generation, that's impressive. I read an article, I think it was in Inc. magazine. It said 50% of all second generation companies fail, and it was something like 90% or higher that third generation companies fail.
Yeah, they like to say that the founder creates the business, the second generation grows the business, and the third generation typically loses the business. So we know the odds, and we feel inspired by that. So we feel like we're beating that and continuing to build on a great legacy. But we consider it, when you get to do it, business like this with family, and it works, it's one of the best things. We take that seriously because we know a lot of times it just oftentimes doesn't work out.
Well, you and I are on this podcast, and the three of us are on this podcast, but we have the privilege of seeing each other each and every week. We are all in the Rising Tide Mastermind together. So I want to thank you guys for being a member of that. And it's always difficult for me to explain to the Scaling Up Nation what that's like, since I was the founder of the Rising Tide Mastermind. I'm kind of curious, for all the listeners in the Scaling Up Nation, can you kind of explain what we do every week and why you guys have been in the Rising Tide Mastermind for so long?
Yeah, I mean, I can lead off. I joined, I think, in fall 2019. I think 2020 was maybe my first full year on the mastermind. And I joined because I was really invested in growing personally and professionally as somebody in the water treatment industry, and was really excited by the opportunity to get to do that with peers. And so I originally joined a group of other business owners who were involved in the water treatment space. And it's been an awesome opportunity to not only make friends, but to create a sense of community within the industry of like-minded folks who want to grow and help one another grow in the process. And so every week I look forward to connecting with what have become some of my best friends in the industry, but also people that I look forward to hearing how they're working through challenges in their own day-to-day life and business. And then myself as well, bringing issues to the group to get help processing, sorting them out, and ultimately accomplishing my goals. And so beyond that, we also spend a lot of time reading different development books together, whether it's business or professional. And yeah, it just produces a great conversation every week that when I look back over these last few years, it's been one of the key aspects of my growth personally and professionally.
Yeah, I'll echo that for sure. I've been involved a little less time than certainly Trace and Reid as well. But my calling to the mastermind group was really out of kind of a search for better people to surround myself with and be challenged and encouraged at the same time, hear about some of the opportunities and the challenges that business leaders are going through and how they're dealing with that, right? And how they're motivating not only themselves, but the employees that they work with day in and day out too. So learned a lot about the strategy with regard to that. I've done more reading than I have probably since college. So thanks to you, Trace. So I appreciate that challenge as well. But really, fundamentally, learning how to kind of break down things into pieces that are achievable, you can work on from a project standpoint and so forth without having it overcome your day, your week, and your year. So a lot of smart minds within that group, and I'm certainly glad to be a part of it.
Well, I appreciate that. Anytime we can get another perspective into the Rising Tide Mastermind, I think the Scaling Up Nation appreciates that. Well, another organization that we're all very passionate about supporting is the Association of Water Technologies. And you all got to present a paper last year at the convention where you were talking about growth and the fact that when we grow, we need to be concerned about safety. Reid, you're a third-generation company, definitely growing. What was your journey when it came to that?
Yeah, the story that we opened up our presentation with was really about the previous decade of growth that we experienced at HOH. And what we realized was a lot of the dialogue around the industry is excitement around growth and how to grow the company. And we thought it would be an interesting perspective to bring to the group around, some of the pitfalls or potential risks when you grow and grow in particular really fast. And that was really around safety. And our story from 2013 really to about 2020 was one where we grew significantly, and in part due to one major acquisition that expanded our geography and also our headcount. And on the surface, that kind of growth is really attractive, and we know that kind of catches people's interest. But the story that felt a little bit more vulnerable to let people in on was that one of the things that we overlooked when we grew that fast was we didn't steward our culture and some of our systems and processes around safety in a way that we felt was not only reflective of our values, but also in a way that just started to impact us from a business operations standpoint. And what we found was there weren't any major safety instances where somebody was hurt or killed, but we had a slow buildup of incidents that began to create claims that over time produced a safety record and an insurance record that began to really cost us. And what we learned in that process, and what I learned in particular, was that it's really far easier and faster to lose a good safety record than it is to build one. And I think in hindsight, the lesson we really wanted to kind of share with growing water treatment companies in our community was to really invest an ounce of prevention as they do grow into safety practices that help kind of steward a good record. And to also begin to kind of think through, hey, safety more broadly is not just about minimizing claims, but really ensuring that people are safe and know that they're cared for. And that kind of leadership in safety when you're growing helps prevent the types of claims that can kind of crop up when you have just a lot more people involved. And so our hope with the presentation was really to kind of help teach a lesson we learned over the years and hopefully help companies avoid a costly and kind of timely process of having to correct a record. And so working with Mike over these past few years has been instrumental for us in terms of, not only correcting our safety record and bolstering our safety culture, but putting measures in place that ensure that as we continue to grow, that our people are not only safe, but our cost to insure business stay reasonable as well.
Peter Drucker says what gets measured gets improved. You all, Reid, have a metric that you look at within your safety committee. And by the way, you also have a safety committee that you're not only looking at, did something happen, but how do we prevent things from happening? How do we make things better? Can you tell us about how you created all that, how you're monitoring it, and what it's been doing for you?
Yeah, I mean, our safety measures have evolved over the years. The big lagging indicator for us was the experience modification rate, the EMR, and that was really it's really this ratio. Mike could speak maybe a little bit more to it, but it's essentially a ratio that reflects your risk level for insurance providers to insure you. And the higher it is, the more costly it is for you to get your insurance. And for us, that number, I think typically you want to keep below 1. That's where we had been for a long time. And we crept up as high as 1.9. And again, for us, there wasn't any one single major incident that triggered that. It was a number of smaller incidents that over time began to accumulate. And so for a long time, that was really our main measure that we were, to some, maybe surprisingly open about with our employees. Most owners maybe aren't sharing what their mod rate is with employees, first kind of educating them on it. But it was disrupting enough of some of our customer relationships that we felt like we needed to confront the problem and just say, hey, this is actually a key measure for us for a number of reasons, and we need to begin working that measure down. And so we're excited that that number has been below 1 for a number of years, as low as 0.8. And we're really proud of that. It's made things a lot easier for us, and we think reflects our improvement. But kind of getting beneath that lagging measure, some of the other things we've measured really have been just ensuring that safety incidents are documented, even when they are near misses, and creating a feedback loop that our safety committee and team is reviewing on a routine basis. And so if we aren't seeing any kind of safety incidents or near miss records being generated, then we know that we're actually not creating enough attention to safety issues that are inevitably there. And so that's one of our key leading metrics is are near misses and incidents being reported in a timely fashion such that we can review and better understand what some of the root issues are and put some preventative measures in place.
Mike, it's always interesting to peek behind the insurance curtain and see how we get the rates that we do. And Reid just brought up the mod rate. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? Should everybody be looking at that? Should everybody know what it is?
Well, most certainly. I think the education that goes along with that's critically important. I wanted to kind of go back, though, quickly to Reid's story because it really showcases a company, HOH in particular here, that recognized and then embraced the change that needed to be made, right? And they put in place certain activities and continue those today in a very successful way to maintain the success that they've had. And if you really think about it, when we talk about this, we don't de-emphasize safety, but what we do is put the focus more on culture, right? And culture being the attitudes and the behaviors and the perceptions of all of your workers and employees, how they're performing, how they're conducting themselves, how they're thinking about their job, because in many cases, they're operating independently in the field and so forth. So you're relying on that human behavior element to really carry forward the culture of the organization. So safety certainly is the focus, but culture really becomes the glue that keeps this ongoing as time goes on and as growth continues to evolve, right? Back to the modification, yes, it is a factor that all companies should be recognizing and becoming as educated as possible in. And it really takes into account two main components, certainly claim and loss activity, but it also takes into account payroll. And those two are the major components that feed into a modification. Some of that is within our control. Some of that is not within our control. A 1.0, we call that being average. But today we talk about why be average, right? Be better than average. And so we look to find out what the minimum mod is of an organization, and then what are the strategies, identifying the steps and the strategies necessary to ultimately achieve that minimum mod, because we really shouldn't be satisfied until that minimum mod is achieved. That can be significant from a dollar and cent standpoint. That can be very significant from a business opportunity standpoint. And whether we like it or not, the modification is an evaluator, a main evaluator by the customers that water treatment organizations serve to determine eligibility. If you're above a 1, you may not be eligible without providing a substantial amount of information to support why you're above a 1. If you're below a 1, the door becomes more open, right? So it is something to be focused on. And we do an awful lot of spend an awful lot of time talking about that and analyzing that.
What are some things that listeners can do today to reduce that rate?
Well, I think in terms of strategy, we talked about some of the fundamentals earlier here, but a safety committee certainly is, I think, a first step to designing a structure within an organization that's going to be sustainable. We have to have that top-down leadership, though. And again, Reid has been so great in terms of his level of ownership in making sure that safety and that culture are consistently communicated within the organization. It truly has to become one of the main strategic pillars of a company in order for it to carry on and be as robust as possible.
Reid, how did you start to implement some of the things that Mike just mentioned?
Yeah, it's funny. I think in 2020 in particular, we'd started to make some improvements, but because the mod, once it starts to increase, it takes, over 3 years to really, of a good record, to start to see some measurable drops there. And I think for us, I mean, I took advantage of the fact that we didn't have a great mod and that it was impacting certain client relationships where we were needing to get waivers, to work with them. And that confused some people on our team. And so really what we took the opportunity there was just to be honest and transparent with what it was and to educate and to use that as the starting point to say, hey, we need to pay closer attention and we need more engagement from our field staff in some of the safety measures that we're putting in place. I would say earlier on, I think like what Mike had highlighted was first starting to assemble a cross-functional group of people to begin starting to work the issue. Pretty soon after we started a safety committee, we began a routine of safety trainings and making sure that pattern was really consistent for our group. And then really for us then honing in on the incident reporting process and starting to kind of dig deeper into near misses, that was probably the next evolution that really started to see some improvement where we weren't waiting for something bad to really kind of come up before our folks knew that we were really interested in understanding how things were currently going. And so we just shifted our perspective to saying, we know that there are times where folks are not safe. There are certain risks at play. We just can't see them. So we do need engagement from our team to be communicating back and forth with us so we can uncover these sooner before they become an actual issue. And I remember at one sales meeting in particular talking about how we have a plan we're excited about. We're looking forward to growing this year. But if there's one thing that could completely derail our plan, it's, really somebody getting hurt. And so really kind of bringing safety into the conversation, recognizing that this is, not only about the personal well-being of ourselves and our team, but if we're really excited about our plan for growth, we need to start incorporating the risk, that poor safety habits and poor safety practices could impact there, and making that connection with our team. Because I think oftentimes for us, safety feels like a compliance-oriented task. It's an afterthought. It's something we've got to check the box on, and that really wasn't working for us. And so finding ways to make it relevant to our team and kind of relate it to the things that we're trying to accomplish together so that it gets the kind of attention and engagement it deserves.
Mike mentioned earlier that it has to be embedded in your culture. And what you just said, Reid, definitely embodies that. I'm curious, what was the mindset shift of your team when you empowered them to do something about safety? It didn't come down from the top. It was actually made by the team.
Yeah, I think what was really important for us, around empowering our team to own this issue was, first and foremost, picking people who shared a passion for correcting the issue first and foremost. So I could think of really one key leader for us in shifting our safety culture was our HR leader. And so she in particular, already carries a certain amount of love and care for our people, wanting to make sure they're safe, but also she was facing the brunt of issues that would come up with insurance as well. And so finding those people that are most affected by it and starting to kind of hand over some responsibility to them to begin enacting change, including having to kind of put some things in place that other team members would be required to do. And I think there is a certain part of this that was us going to our team saying, hey, this is a requirement. We need to start following this process. But that requirement mixed in with a message of, hey, first and foremost, this is not about just lowering insurance rates. It's about caring for one another and caring for our coworkers. I think that begins to kind of call out, a part of people that they begin to see that it isn't just a business initiative. It is actually connected to things that they hold dear. And I think for us too, when we could start to see some progress and see some wins that our team could take credit for and start to feel the benefits of it as well, you could really begin to see the conversation shift completely. But yeah, finding those leaders that are most affected by the problem and getting them enrolled on the team, that was a huge step for us.
I'll add on to that, Trace, if I could, that I think the communication piece of this is critically important too. Employees are really watching leadership, right? And they're waiting for direction, for advice, for empowerment, and so forth, and how to conduct themselves. And when they see leaders taking the initiative that Reid's talked about, there's a sense of cultural development that goes along with that too. And then continually communicating what the belief system is, right? And not just simply about the numbers, not just simply about the experience modification and so forth, but really about each and every person and showing the compassion and the interest in making sure that they go home as safely and healthy as possible.
Mike, you're our advocate. You sell our businesses to underwriters trying to get us the best coverage at the best price, the best cost, the best value, however I should be saying that. So when you hear somebody starting to put together a safety committee, what are some things that you're looking for, and how does that help you put our companies in a better light to these underwriters?
Yeah, when we hear about an initiative taking off like this, we love it. Right? We want to become a part of that. We want to provide our assistance and support to that because we've seen it really play out within water treatment and for our clients outside of water treatment as well. And we have some phenomenal success stories that we could point to where that has happened. But it really helps us in the long run because our job at the end of the day is to represent our clients in the marketplace in the best light possible, accentuating the very positive aspects of the safety program or the accident investigation program or whatever it is, and talk about then not only what they're doing, but what the results of that activity is and the investments, time and energy and resources that are being made to achieve that. And then talking about the why again, right? Not just to look good on paper, not just to have that good mod, but again, because they're truly developing a culture and a team environment where they care about each other, where employee feedback is embraced and encouraged, and where empowerment is delivered to the safety group, to management, to make sure that the people are operating effectively. So it helps the clients that we serve. There's no doubt about it. We've seen it. It helps them attract and retain quality people to their organization. I think it really helps them attract and retain quality customers too, because customers then begin to see a change, right? A change in the way an organization's employees are interacting with that customer. They may even identify safety issues that exist at a customer location, right? To not only protect themselves, but to protect the employees of the customer. So it really begins to take on this more holistic approach over time. And then again, we benefit from that because truly it makes our job easier, right? In the representation of the clients, there's nothing better than to hang our hat on a solid safety culture and health culture within an organization.
Scalar Nation, we're going to take a brief pause from our discussion with Reid Hutchison and Mike Highum as we hear from our friends over at Evapco. When a cooling tower needs repair work, your customer turns to you for your expertise. But who do you turn to? Evapco and its network of factory-authorized Mr. Good Tower service centers are here to help. As the industry leader in cooling tower parts and repairs, Evapco empowers water professionals with the resources and expertise needed to not only get the job done, but to truly excel in serving your customers. With Evapco's Mr. Good Tower service program, factory-trained technicians are equipped with everything needed to deliver unparalleled service. With Evapco and Mr. Good Tower's global network of factory-authorized service centers, they are the go-to solution for all of your evaporative cooling equipment needs, including unit inspections, replacement parts, and service for all manufacturers' cooling towers, thermal performance upgrades, and equipment upgrades such as low sound solutions, and the water treater's best friend, service platforms and ladders. Evapco's team of professionals is dedicated to designing and manufacturing the highest quality products for the evaporative cooling and industrial refrigeration markets around the globe. To find your local Mr. Good Tower Service Center and to schedule a cooling tower inspection, go to scalinguph2o.com/Evapco. Once again, that's scalinguph2o.com/Evapco. That's EVAPCO. Thanks, Evapco. Now we're going to pick up right where we left off with Reid and Mike. Obviously, the more we know about safety, the safer we can be because we know what to look out for. Mike, something you've helped my team with are all the training courses that are available to us just by working with the firms that you work with. A lot of our listeners may not know of some of these resources that are available to them. Do you mind telling us about them?
Sure, I'd be happy to. The insurance carrier market definitely has a wide range of services and trainings available. But we also, as McGowan, deliver on that as well. We have two divisions specifically that address that. We have a compliance and advisory service that is a value-added offering that we provide, really focuses on some technology products and some internal policies and procedures, more of the administrative and structural part of a safety and health program. Beyond that, then we have a division called McGowan Risk Solutions. That's more of a fee-based offering, but a customized, full-on safety service division where we would facilitate, operate, and partner with our clients on safety programs, training, customized trainings that we develop web-based and so forth. So a full range of products and services that are not one-size-fit-all, but rather dedicated and prioritized after a careful risk assessment. And that's really where we like to begin with our clients, is getting to know them, identifying what their business is and what kind of challenges and opportunities they face, and then really getting into a full risk assessment. Because this can be quite a challenge to take on all of this at one time. And even Reid and HOH didn't snap their fingers and change that overnight, right? It took a lot of time and a lot of effort to get to where they're at today. But you've got to start somewhere, right? Because the need is not going away. We see continuing challenge in the environment, business challenges, employee challenges that we face. And so no better time than to start on this process now. And we'd be happy to partner and guide with anybody. And really, when we talk about safety, we immediately think of employee injury, but we really need to broaden that thinking, I think, a little bit too, because more than ever, we're talking about vehicle-related incidents. We're talking about customer site issues that may bring on a liability concern and certainly an employee injury concern. Also, near misses. Reid mentioned near misses before as well. So this activity is definitely going on, and it's really up to leadership to design a structure that enables and empowers their people to bring that to a head.
Reid, there's all of these things that Mike just mentioned: materials, policies, procedures, trainings. With all of that, how did you start to deploy that in your team?
Yeah, I mean, for a long time, we definitely had a safety manual and policy. And pretty early on, I remember that was one of the documents that kind of first needed a lot of updating for us to kind of make it more relevant. But I'll go back to, I think, the starting point for us was getting the right people around the table and in some sort of a meeting rhythm to start to kind of look at the issues and then really prioritizing. Because I think when you hear it all, it's pretty overwhelming. And to Mike's point, this did take us a number of years to, I think, get the rhythms and the routines in place. And then once you get going, you start to kind of build some momentum. So I would really kind of emphasize, getting the right people together in a meeting cadence and then starting from there to kind of prioritize what things can we work on that's going to have the greatest impact. And for us, I think, again, like the ongoing measurement for us around incidents and near misses and getting those, it produces an important dialogue that allows us to kind of dig deeper into, where are those areas of risk that we're not aware of and starting to put measures in place. I can think of even one really simple one that for us, we have in our lunchroom, we've got two kind of heavy doors and there were no windows on them. And something really small was that we would have people that would bump into each other on either end of the door just because you couldn't see who was on the other side. And so, and oftentimes if it happened, you think, oh, all right, that was just kind of a close call and you just go on with your day. But eventually, once we got in the rhythm of meeting, somebody decided to say, hey, I actually think this was a near miss. Like I actually could have gotten hurt. And so that came to the safety committee and we talked through it. And initially we kind of laughed thinking like, all right, it's just a door, what's the big deal? But the more we thought about it, the more we realized, no, actually people are kind of affected by this and no one's gotten seriously injured yet. But even just for the sake of helping our employees feel heard that, hey, this is maybe to some just a minor inconvenience. If we can come up with a solution here, that would be a win. And so our creative solution was we actually cut out a small little window in the door. So you could at least have some visual indication of, is there somebody on the other side? And that has gone a long way. I recently had an exchange with somebody at that door and told them the story that, hey, this actually never had a window here for the longest time. And we had more run-ins than you can imagine. And a safety incident got filled out and a near miss report. And we actually did something about it. Small thing, but over time, if you're in the rhythm, you begin to kind of see and hear, what you're looking for. And if you start to kind of look for these things, undoubtedly they'll come up, and if they come up over the period of a few months, they're a lot more manageable to start putting solutions in place. And so hopefully that example gives people an idea of just kind of the value of starting small with a meeting. And then the key thing there too is also being willing to kind of follow through on some of these ideas as well, because like the window in the door, whether it was presenting a significant safety risk or not, I think for our team members, in terms of getting their engagement and buy-in to it, I think they get fired up when they see that their opinions are heard, they voice something, and even if there's a perceived issue, following up and following through and actually putting some solution in place goes a long way. And then they're more inclined to want to bring up additional things because they have confidence. So yeah, one more that's coming to mind is we had folks that talked about our parking lot being dark at night. And that would be the last thing that I would have thought about. And so through that, after a report got filled out, we ended up putting out lights in the parking lot. Even something as small as some folks driving fast through our parking lot, we ended up putting out a sign here, talk about, slowing down and whatnot. And so little things like that, again, just kind of our big wins, just getting your team engaged. And I think the format of just beginning to meet on a routine basis, whether it's once a month or twice a month, I think is the best step for getting there.
Reid, those are great examples. And I can't help but think there's got to be somebody out there listening saying, okay, well, that's because people were okay sharing their concerns. But what if people are concerned that, oh, I'm just complaining and I don't want to act as a complainer to my employer? What's that culture change where we can encourage people to bring their ideas?
Yeah, it's definitely repeating the permission to, and at some points with certain individuals, being aware enough and managing by walking around to see, where these things are. And if you catch that somebody maybe hasn't reported one, being very direct with them to say, hey, actually, you're creating an issue by not saying something. And so I really need you to do this. And that persistence eventually kind of starts to break people's habits of holding back. The other key I would suggest there is the importance of people's individual supervisors and managers. And for us, I would say that's been another key indirect focus on our safety culture, is really ensuring that anyone we have in a supervisory role or management position responsible for individuals on our team, that they've really got to understand and own, their responsibility to the whole company, and that they can't be making safety a second, order issue. They need to fully buy in and create the environment where the folks on their team are willing to speak up and share. And for us, culturally, this is somewhat already kind of been normal for us. We run on the entrepreneurial operating system, the EOS. And I think one of the parallels that I would kind of bring to this is the whole idea of just raising issues. And so everyone on our team's engaged in a weekly level 10 meeting, which is our kind of standard team meetings. But the main focus of those is generating and raising issues and then identifying, discussing, and solving those issues at the root. And so we try to draw a parallel with our team around safety issues, or just like other issues that we're bringing up in our meeting. They just happen to have a specific focus. And so if you're not bringing up issues, but you see it, you're actually not really living out one of our core values of accountability. And so the whole idea, if you see something, you got to say something. And so, for us, trying to make it the safety practices maybe not different than any of our other operating systems. So trying to find ways where it integrates, so it's not just something extra or something new, drawing those parallels, and then even anchoring it in a values kind of conversation to really sink in for folks and get them over that initial period of discomfort bringing something up.
Mike, what do you suggest some of the best ways to get started on thinking about safety and creating that culture that exists around safety are?
Yeah, I think Reid captured some highlights there, but the thing that came to mind as he was talking was really leading by example. And I recall another client we had that, not in the water treatment business, but they were having particular issue with their employees utilizing the PPE, the protective equipment that they provided to them. And it so happened that the owner struggled with that a little bit too. And so he was called out one day by his own employee, and rather taking offense to that, really kind of embraced that again, because it really showed no matter where you're at in the organization, you are responsible, you are accountable to each other, not only to yourself, but to each other as well. And that certainly includes ownership. I think I would probably, back to your question, begin at the high level, right? Because this is going to require ownership and executive level buy-in on a continual basis. And these things can definitely run in tandem. I talked before about safety and culture being a main pillar of an operation, and I really do believe that that can go side by side with growth and other initiatives operationally that a company may have. So I think laying out at a high level what that structure looks like and should be, involving a trusted advisor to provide some feedback and some experiences and so forth, I think is probably a step in the right direction as well. But then very quickly identifying those key leaders within the organization that are going to embrace the same kind of attitude and culture that is being decided upon and communicate, be involved in terms of carrying that forward and so forth. The activities that come after that can be numerous, right? And really should be unique to the organization, unique to the needs, perhaps some of the kinds of claims and losses that that company has had in the past, and trying to respond to that. And some of the things that are being communicated by the employee group themselves, right? There's no better source of information about what's really happening and really going on in the field while delivering, back in the warehouse while blending or loading or unloading containers and that type of thing. No better source of information than the employee themselves. And so finding ways to draw out information from them and feedback and constructive ideas is a fundamental component of what we're talking about.
Reid, during your presentation, you shared an anecdote with the audience. Do you mind sharing it here?
Yeah, I was a number of years ago reading the book, The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg. And I was recently reminded of it by another safety resource that I had been looking into, and decided that the story would be really helpful to share with the audience, just around the compelling reason to invest in building your safety culture. And the story goes back to 1987 at a big steel company called Alcoa. And they had a really poor record around employee safety, had even had deaths in their facilities. And that was relatively normal for the industry at the time. And so Paul O'Neill was a new CEO, and he really shocked that company when he announced in one of his opening speeches that his main priority and focus was going to be establishing a zero injury target for the organization. And it surprised people because they wondered, how effective it would be for him to be putting a safety goal as really the top priority, even beyond revenue growth or profitability or some of their other typical KPIs. And I think what's really profound about the story of Paul O'Neill at Alcoa was they ultimately accomplished that goal. And over the period of his leadership from 1987 to 2005, they 5x'd the value of Alcoa. And some of the learnings there, and that Charles Duhigg was highlighting in his book around the power of habit, was recognizing that when you focus on a few or even one cornerstone habit, not even just individually, but within an organization, it has an outflow on other practices in the organization positively. And so what they found at Alcoa was the focus on safety and hitting that zero injury goal. It began to improve their focus on quality. And as they improved quality, their production and throughput began to increase. And so they saw a domino effect by choosing to focus on one singular metric like safety. the overall quality of what they did improved. And I think that story is really compelling to me because I know for a lot of business owners, you're really focused on trying to get a lot of things right. And there's a lot of different KPIs to focus on. But I think it's actually worth considering raising the priority of safety as a measure for success in a business, not because it's the only thing that matters, but even strategically realizing that a lot of other things need to go right in order for you to hit a really strong safety goal. And so I think that that's something worth considering is how can you integrate safety measures into what you're already doing. And there's maybe an outflow of positive impact on things like quality and throughput. And I think about the message it sends to our teams. A lot of times safety issues happen when people are in states like they're rushing, or they're frustrated, they may be tired or even complacent, and starting to realize that, hey, if we can focus on safety, we're eventually going to kind of get into layers of employee engagement and performance that if we correct, we're not just going to have a safer company. We're probably going to have a more valuable, more profitable, sustainable company as well.
So, Mike, based on the things that Reid just mentioned, how do we take that concept, but then continually improve upon it?
Yeah, I think the example is a good one. A zero accident culture really should be a part of an organization's strategy and what they want to achieve over time. But again, that doesn't happen overnight. And in order to get to that point, I think just continuing to improve on the strategies that you have in place dedicated to health and safety is critical, and continuing to learn as you go too. And again, that learning really comes from the experiences of your entire employee base. One of the strategies that we've assisted with is a robust accident investigation. Accidents, again, meaning not only employee injury, but vehicle incidents and also near-miss incidents as well. And it's a process that's not a judgment, not punitive to the employee in any way, but you're bringing the employee in, oftentimes in person, to talk with that individual about the incident, right? From their perspective, have them go back through in detail what happened, what the environment was like, were there any witnesses, what were the outcomes of the situation and so forth, and what are the lessons learned, right? And communicating that from their viewpoint, asking challenging questions along the way, I think can really share a level of information that you're simply not going to get in any other meeting or any other venue, really. And so through that, it not only provides that kind of information that's going to bring you along that continuum of zero accidents, but it's going to help you identify where do you need to prioritize, where do you need to focus the attention of the safety committee, what kind of training might be necessary, what kind of physical obstructions and challenges is an employee dealing with, perhaps even every day, just to get the job done. And if getting the job done is the one thing that drives an employee, that's got to change, right? Because safety and their well-being has to become number one. That has to be communicated continually by leadership. That has to be exhibited by leadership. And it has to be celebrated by leadership when achieved. So I think pulling all of that together, the continual improvement is an outgrowth of that process, but you've got to roll up your sleeves and you've got to do the detail type of work.
I'll ask you both this question. If you could only drive home one point today, what do you want that point to be?
I think my one point would be if you're excited about growing your business, begin to put some thought into how you're going to grow the culture around safety in your company. And so I think that would be the number one thing is just as you can contemplate growth, don't neglect thinking through what maybe additional strategies your organization might need as you grow. Because when you grow, there's a lot of good that comes with it, but you also grow and scale whatever vulnerabilities or weaknesses or issues you have as well. And it's generally easier to do it before you grow than after. And like I shared at the beginning, it's a lot easier to lose a really solid safety record than it is to build one. And so if you've got one today and your organization's growing, it's going to save you far less time and hassle to start investing a little bit now at preserving it as you grow instead of needing to fix or correct it after the fact.
Yeah, I would add on to that I think a solid safety culture is a business builder and definitely not a distraction. And I think having that change of attitude, again, by leadership and an employee base is a critical component. A really well executed safety cultural program can have great impact, great positive impact on an organization. And it can help propel growth. And we've seen that happen. And it can help solidify relationships with employees. It can help solidify relationships with customers in a way that few things can, right? We'll do our best to service. We'll do our best to have product at your door in a timely fashion of a quality nature and so forth. That's the expectation. But when you deliver more than that and you exhibit a true safety culture and a compassion for other people, your fellow employee and the employees of your customers, that's, I think, when you have really achieved excellence.
Well, I want to thank you both for coming on the Scaling Up H2O podcast. Mike Highum of McGowan Insurance and Reid Hutchison of HOH.
Thanks for having us. We appreciate the opportunity. Always a fun topic to talk about and always fun to do it with my good friend, Reid.
Yeah, likewise, Mike. Thanks for having us, Trace.
Nation, those are two great guys in the industrial water treatment industry. I am glad that I can call them my friends. And I'm also glad that they are helping me and my company learn how we can have a greater awareness around keeping everybody that works here safe. As I mentioned before, when you're hurt, nothing else matters. But there's so many things that we can do on a daily basis to just engineer potential accidents out of our day-to-day. And a lot of times we just don't think about it. I know we are busy in our day-to-day and we are hurrying to try to get to that next account or get that order that the customer wants to get in or try to help them in whatever way we can. We all have good intentions. And sometimes safety takes a back seat. Trust me, when I was laid up for weeks with that car accident, that was the only thing that I could think about. Again, not much I could have done about that, but think about all the potential accidents that you could have within your day-to-day, and then maybe elevate that to a safety committee like Reid was talking about. I know your insurance agent will like that. And by all means, let them know that you're doing things like that. They love to let underwriters know that this company is not like every other company. They are doing all these things up and above, so they're not going to have claims. They have certified water technologists within their organizations. I have heard numerous companies get better ratings because they have certified people on their staff, and that is a mark of excellence that they use in their company to prove to their customers that their team knows industrial water treatment. Well, just like it works for customers, our insurance people can use that to let underwriters know that we are a cut above other companies, and this is why. So I hope you have a great relationship with your insurance professional. I know I do with mine, and it's little things like that. I guess they're not little things. It's things like that that allow us to not spend all of our money on insurance, to spend money on other things that we need here in the business, but know that we are working in conjunction with not only keeping people safe, but getting the best products around us should something ever occur. Thank you both, Reid. Thank you, Mike, for coming on the Scaling Up H2O podcast and sharing some of those items. I know if you want to find out more of what you can do, I urge you to call your insurance professional, tell them about this podcast, maybe even have them listen to this podcast and come up with some ideas where you all can collaborate together and make your company safer and more efficient. Nation, our friend James McDonald always has a new installment of Drop by Drop with James, and here's this week's episode.
Welcome to Drop by Drop with James, the podcast segment where we wonder, explore, think about, imagine, and learn industrial water treatment, you guessed it, drop by drop. Together. Today's topic is a what if. And the topic is about boiler bottom blowdown. What if an operator opens and closes the boiler bottom blowdown valves in the wrong order? What would be the impact? Will this impact be felt immediately or long term? What is the logic of why boiler bottom blowdown valves are open and closed in a certain order? Is there logic? Is there any additional wear and tear on the valves based upon the order opened? What if a valve starts to leak through and needs to be repaired? Which valve would be easier to repair, possibly without requiring the boiler to be taken offline? Are the bottom blowdown valves of the same design or different design? Why? The boiler manufacturer's operations manual should be followed when determining the proper order to open and close the bottom blowdown valves, of course. But if the boiler operator asked you, would you know how to answer? I'm James McDonald, and I want to encourage you to be like water by forming bonds with those around you, dissolving new knowledge, and making worthy ripples, drop by drop.
James, thank you. And Nation, you're actually going to hear from James McDonald. He's our guest next week on the Scaling Up H2O podcast. Always a delight when James McDonald comes by to be a guest. And I think you're going to enjoy what we have in store for you then. Until then, have a great week, folks.